Yo, 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 what it do, what it be? It's your boy, Agent ANT, repping the Spell Block Agency. Game gang, you know we don't play none of that, all that. Playing a little bit of Cold War and some Fallout 4. And today I got something special for you. Welcome to Histories, Mysteries, and Conspiracy Season 2. We finna make a smooth transition from Kingpins and Capos into a conspiracy of history. And we're going to be talking about how the Mafia rigged arguably the biggest American sporting event at the time. So before we get into the hows, let's get into the who's and the whys. So let's rewind back to 1917. The Chicago Black Sox, they won the World Series. They beat the New York baseball Giants. Yes, there was a baseball team named the Giants. Now there's a football team. At one point there were two teams named the Giants, so the baseball Giants. The Black Sox beat the baseball Giants to win the World Series in 1917. So try to keep in mind that in 1917, there was, for real, no TV. It wouldn't be invented for a few years later. Computers damn sure weren't around. Radio was the primary and really the only device to digest content. You got sports, news, and music, all that just on the radio. And I mean, the NBA didn't exist. The NFL wouldn't start for another 3 years later, in 1920. The NHL just broke off from the AHL. So really, there was no really even sports. And with media not being on the level it is today, sports and media and even celebrities in media weren't as intertwined as they are today. I mean, advertising something on the radio was almost unheard of. I mean, they did have endorsements. There was I believe a pitcher for the Pirates that had an endorsement deal for bats in 1905, and that's maybe one of the first endorsements in sports history is from baseball. But other than that, yeah, there was no like musicians on the radio advertising stuff, or like I said, celebrities on TV. None of that. So besides maybe boxing, baseball was America's sport. It was America's game. And besides a heavyweight championship boxing match, there was no bigger ticket or there was no bigger game than the World Series. The pennant was the most prestigious team trophy in sports. There was no Lombardi trophy. Maybe they had the Stanley Cup, but hockey was nowhere near as popular as baseball. And then whatever basketball thing is, I mean, like I said, it was nowhere near close to being as popular as it was. So even with baseball being the most popular and most watched sport, though, I mean, the players for the most part were paid like shit. I mean, even if they won the pennant or playoffs, there was no bonuses for that. They just got to play with the team. That's it. So to kind of give y'all an idea of how different things were back then, there were no contracts, and a collective bargaining agreement was a foreign concept to the players. Like if a player got drafted, and I use that term loosely, if they got drafted to a team, they were stuck on that team forever unless they got traded. Like, yeah, if you get drafted to the Yankees, you a Yankee for life. We gonna pay you what we want to pay you, and unless we release you or trade you, what is a contract negotiation? What is free agency? That shit don't exist here, son. So let's go back a little bit. So the Chicago White Sox, they win the World Series in 1917. Hell yeah, go Chicago. It should be a happy time for the city and everyone in the organization, right? Everybody should be turned. But it wasn't, because yeah, the MLB owners were underpaying their players, but there was no owner cheaper than the White Sox owner, Charlie Comiskey. Let me give y'all an idea of what a cheapskate slimeball this guy was. He was so cheap that he wouldn't pay to get his team's uniform clean when everybody else was doing it. So either the players cleaned them, or some would get so dirty during the season it earned the team the nickname the Black Sox. On top of that, during the season, he promised his pitcher, Eddie Saigot, a $10,000 bonus if he won 30 games. And when Eddie won 29, Comiskey ordered the team manager to bench him so he couldn't get his bonus. And we see this actually in today's sports. Prime example of this is in the NFL, when Antonio Brown took off his shirt and his jersey and said that the coach cursed him out. Well, on top of that, supposedly he was supposed to get some bonuses. Like if you make a certain amount of catches, if you throw a certain amount of touchdowns, you get paid on performance. Well, players agree to this, so I don't know how unfair it really is. But to me, I don't know why you would sign that because, you could get hurt, stuff like that. Besides the point. Antonio Brown thought he was going to get his bonuses because, there's a couple games in the season left. All I need is a couple catches. This is easy, right? Well, then they tell him to sit down, and then Bruce Arians tells him get off the field or whatever. So then he throws his whole fit or whatever. Maybe not the thing I would have done, but he chose to do that because was it unfair? Yeah. If I can play and I can get my bonuses and you're going to stop me from getting my bonuses for whatever reason, I don't care how much we're up, how much we're down. If y'all told me, hey, we're going to make sure we try and get you these bonuses, why can't I get these bonuses? You feel me? You're not even going to try and throw the ball my way. Or Victor Cruz kind of talked about it on a podcast about when the Giants were trying to get rid of him and they stopped kind of giving him the ball. But that, I'm getting far off my original point. So basically the team, or at least some players, had legitimate reasons for doing what they did. Because my owner, the cheapskate, I'm out here winning pennants and he don't want to pay me. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy and his cheap ass, bro. So fast forward to 1919 and Comiskey recruits Shoeless Joe Jackson to play for the Sox. Now he got a stack roster. I mean, Shoeless Joe, a superstar. Not yet, but he will. He's about to be because people knew he could play. So that you bring in Shoeless Joe, that's pretty much bringing in LeBron when you already got D Wade. I mean, you got Lefty Williams and you got Eddie Saiga. Your team just stacked at this point. It looked like they was about to win pennants, for the decades. You feel me? They was in it for the long haul. There was Eddie Saiga, Claude Lefty Williams, like I said, Big Train Johnson, all that. So y'all know how I said when baseball was America's game, and that is true for the most part. Football and basketball are more popular today, but this was 1919 Chicago. Baseball was a part of the holy American trinity along with apple pie and racism. But what gets swept under the rug is the fact that the 1919 World Series only brought gambling into the spotlight. But the baseball stadiums back then had bookies openly taking bets in the stadium. Gambling was as much a part of the game as an umpire. It wasn't really a secret either. You had motherfuckers lined up at a bookie at a baseball game like he was selling crack or something. Like, no cap. Motherfuckers was trying to get their bets in. It was just as much as part of America's game as a pitcher or a batter. You feel me? Like, people would bet on these games. And like I said, it was early 1919 Chirac. Al Capone and the outfit ran the city too. There are rumors that the White Sox players would get dropped off in bulletproof cars to the game, courtesy of Big Al. But Al Capone wouldn't be the one to fix the series. That would come from Arnold Rothstein, a.k.a. the Brain. Rothstein was a Jewish gangster. Who loved, like when I say he loved gambling, bro bet, shout out Nipsey Hussle, he would bet his life. He a dice shaker for real. Like, he would play dice, cards, he would bet on sporting events, and he would be winning too. And trust, when I say that this was not the only sporting event that Arnold Rothstein had a hand in, you could believe that. But his father, Arnold Rothstein's father, was an affluent Manhattan businessman with friends in the banking industry. So he had big friends in high places, pause. But instead of becoming a businessman like his father, Rothstein used his father's resources to open a Manhattan casino and invest in a horse racing track. And with that, he was getting money back to back. So he used both of those to build a network of gamblers and informants. And with his father's and friends' help, he was a millionaire by the age of 30. And I'm sure gambling had a little something to do with that. You feel me? If you know the outcomes, you feel me? If you know the numbers, or I'm sure he had investments as well. But he was a notorious gambler. He was making thousands, tens of $1,000s off of gambling. You feel me? And that's not for the 1917s World War I is hitting. The Roaring 20s right before the Depression is like, bro, you balling, fam. So with all of these resources at his disposal, Rothstein got a tip from one of his informants that a few Black Sox players were disgruntled and they would discuss taking a payoff in order to throw the World Series, And from there, the fix was on. I'm going to tell you now, though, I am not the biggest fan of baseball. I'm getting into it because I'm trying to gamble on it, but I am not about to analyze a 9-game series. Yes, the World Series for a couple years or a few years back then was a 9-game series. Crazy as hell, right? So I'm going to summarize it to the best of my abilities. So the Cincinnati Reds made it to the World Series, right? And as of course, so did the White Sox. The Reds at first were plus 500 underdogs, but as rumors began to spread that Chicago was going to throw the game, the Red Sox became plus 160 underdogs. And if you gamble, that's a big swing, no pun intended. You feel me? Like that baseball pun? But the series was about to go down in history for all the wrong reasons, not just for the big swing and none of that. And one thing to note here is that not everyone on the Black Sox was in on the fix. Some players wanted to legit just win or lose, and soon the locker room was divided between players wanting to lose and players wanting to win. And the night before the series began, Eddie Sagat was allegedly paid $10,000, and he let everyone know the fix was on. Since he beat the brakes off Chicago in Game 1, Sagat gave up 14 hits, which back in the day, I guess even today that seems like a high number, but especially back then, you gave up 14 hits, bro. Nah, something fishy, fam. Like we smell the fix on you, fam. So, in the second game, they kind of cleaned it up a little bit, but since he won 4-2, and another $10,000 was paid and distributed between the Sox players who was in on the fix. In Game 3, the rookie pitcher Dickie Kerr for the Sox pitched a shutout. He wasn't in on the fix, and he wasn't going down like that. The Sox won 3-0, but they were still down 1-2 in the series, keep in mind. So, in Games 4 and 5, Sox lost. Regular, they got paid off, all that. But in Game 6 and 7, something happened where they was like, they started getting a little cold feet on fixing the game. I don't know what it was, but they rallied and looked like they could maybe take the series, maybe come back and win. But Arnold Rothstein wasn't having that. He saw what was going on, and he said, I don't know what they think they about to do, but he had someone approach Lefty Williams before Game 8 and basically threatened that if the Sox won, well, let's just say that the Sox wouldn't want to win. There would be repercussions. Let's just say your fucking wife, ends up with a fucking broken leg. She goes for a little ride. You feel me? But you understand me? But that angered that pretty much did him in, because Game 8, the Reds closed it out, and that was the first time in the 9-game series history that a team who won Game 7 didn't win the series. The deed was done. The Black Sox lost. The Cincinnati Reds won the series. The Reds would, go on to have some gambling problems of their own. Shout out Pete Rose, just a few decades later. But after the smoke cleared on this one, though, the public was outraged. They were pissed. The image of America's game had been tainted. How dare they expose that gambling is a part of the game? You feel me? And there was even whispers, I'm not going to lie, there's even whispers that the 1920 or either the 1921 World Series may have had, some rigging going on, but I might have to look more into that. But charges had been brought against the players and gamblers for defrauding. Everybody except Arnold Rothstein, that is, because he was smart enough to have people just deliver money to the players. He never was spotted with the players during this time. It was only a rumor, an innuendo that he had anything to do with this. But he got off scot-free, made his bread, and got the fuck out. That's what you're supposed to do. Shoeless Joe, though, and a couple of others publicly confessed to fixing the series. However, I will say that Shoeless Joe maintained that he played to win. And if you look at his stats, it's hard to argue against that, because he had the most hits on either team. He was catching foul balls. It didn't really look, if you look at his stats, it didn't look like he was trying to throw the game at all. Eddie Saigot with his 14 hits, yeah, get the fuck out of here. You guilty as hell, fam. But Shoeless Joe, bro, that's why his legacy still remains intact, because he took the bread, bro, but he was not trying to throw the game. He let a game too much, I guess. I don't know how that works in baseball, but I gotta, I'm not a fan. I gotta ask my baseball homies how they feel about Shoeless Joe and how they feel about that, but if they even know about it. So, the other players, of course, were guilty as fuck, but in a court of law, they were found innocent. And after this incident, MLB said, oh, yeah, no, y'all not getting away with this. They brought in their first commissioner, whose name, oh, man, y'all are going to love this. His name was Kennesaw Mountain Landis. Kennesaw Mountain Landis. What a name. And his first action as commissioner was he banned Shoeless Joe and the other 7 who were in on it too. Lefty Williams, Saigot, all them. But, like I said, Shoeless Joe legacy lives on, as 2 months after the Black Sox lost in the 1919 World Series, the Yankees would trade for a young whippersnapper. Is that a racist term? I don't know. But they would trade for a guy named Babe Ruth. And he was heavily influenced by Shoeless Joe. Even called Shoeless Joe's batting swing a thing of beauty. And the rest is history. Babe Ruth damn near single-handedly brought back everybody to the stands they wanted to see. The Sultan of SWAT hit the ball. Baseball started to change their rules. He started revolutionizing a little bit. But I will say that Babe Ruth, he revolutionized baseball in that aspect. But again, I still got to hold it over his head. Like, you didn't play against no black people, bro. Like, we seen what Will and Bill did when they entered the NBA. We seen what happened. Yeah, I don't know about black players in hockey if they got like a Michael Jordan, but we seen what happened when Wilt and Bill started in the NBA and all that, and even before them, you had guys like maybe Big O and stuff like that. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe he came after, but even still, you ain't play against Jackie Robinson, bro, or none of them. I think Jackie Robinson came decades later, but I think it was like 1940s. But even still, bro, you didn't. I gotta hold that asterisk. Still legend in the game. All time, like I said, legendary names, bro. Sultan of SWAT, Babe, the Bambino, bro, the Curse, the reason why the Red Sox sucked all those years, the reason why everybody hates the Yankees, that's Babe Ruth. He started that. But like I said, he also made everybody forget that they had just rigged the World Series like 6 months ago, and after like a year, everybody was coming back from the war, and baseball was back on top for the most part until, the Super Bowl and shit like that was invented. But, and even then, when Babe came back, he kept the stadiums packed. He kept the bookies' pockets lined back up. You feel me? They was right back in the stadium it's not like they banned gambling in the stadiums. Oh, no, I don't think that came till later, but they was, oh, word? This young kid, but what? Y'all trying to make a parlay? I don't even know if parlays was a thing back then. But anyways, y'all, hope y'all enjoyed the video. Y'all be safe. If you liked the video, leave a like. Leave a comment on maybe a conspiracy or a mystery that I should cover in the future. I got a hot season lined up for y'all. And then maybe we'll get into the history of hip-hop or something like that. I'm a hip-hop fanatic. But yeah, y'all be safe. Don't get smoked. Been your boy, Agent A&T. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Ring the goddamn bell, by God, so you don't miss none of this hot content dropping soon. You gotta stay tuned. I know I fucked up the rhyme, but it's all good. Yeah, I'm out. Got a couple more minutes left on the video, but again, that was Arnold Rothstein, and not really the Chicago outfit, but Rothstein and was like, he was a mentor to guys like Meyer Lansky and some of the Jewish mobsters. He was close with Al Capone and them. I'm sure he knew them, but that was all him. Bro was a gambling god, and I salute that man, bro. You rigged he rigged what it was equivalent to the Super Bowl. Like, y'all understand that, right? Like, if he rigged the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl only one game. If he would have rigged like the NBA Finals And shout out to Tim Donaghy, because I mean they didn't rig the finals to my knowledge, but they did. They was rigging playoff games. I mean, ask the Denver Nuggets. And I mean, it's not like we really needed help. The Nuggets had to go up against Kobe, and Kobe in his Mamba years with Powell. We had to go up against Dirk when he was the greatest player in the world. We had to go up against Tim Duncan and the Spurs with those 2 Euros. Like, bro, we didn't need help. Like, y'all was going against AI and Melo, and y'all didn't need to do that. But that's just my opinion, y'all. Fuck Tim Donaghy and fuck the rigged ass NBA, because Sacramento Kings probably should have a ring. Shout out Mike Bibby and all them. But I'm just ranting for the end of the video. But yeah, I should probably get out of here. Peace, y'all.